Hey everyone, this is Lindy from Love Create Celebrate. Welcome back to my channel where we share DIY and renovation projects. Today I'm sharing my Thanksgiving tablescape. We already had our Thanksgiving in Canada, but I really wanted to show these little wooden place settings that I made using my Cricut Maker. If you are brand new to using a Cricut machine, we always start all of our Cricut projects in the Cricut Design Space. So just search Cricut Design Space, open that up, and we'll start by clicking New Project. To start, I just wanted to give you an example of some of the Cricut script fonts that you can use. If you want to make a nice place setting like this, a script is going to work the best because the letters flow into each other beautifully. The script I'm collecting here is called Shopping Script, and it's actually a script that I have downloaded. So you can open scripts that are downloaded on your computer or scripts that are already available in the Cricut Design Space. So here what I did was just test a whole bunch of different scripts to see what they would look like with my daughter Eleanor's name all spelled out. I decided to try my wooden names with the pen and ink font in the Cricut Design Space. Of all the scripts I had looked at, I thought that this one had the thickest lines and would have the best chance of having a good cut out of the wood. This one actually didn't end up working, but I'll still show you how I manipulated all of the letters to create beautiful names, and then I'll show you the one Cricut script that worked beautifully and I think was the prettiest. So when adding any text, the first thing you do is just add a text box and write the words that you want in there. So I wrote Rose, which was one of my family members' names. The next step is to select your font, so I went ahead and used the pen and ink font that I had been trying earlier. The first thing you're going to want to do when selecting a font is change the letter spacing. This is going to remove the space between each of your letters, and as you lower the letter spacing, you'll see that your letters get closer and closer together. The goal is to find that sweet spot where the letters overlap enough that they'll weld together and hold nicely, and not getting them so close that they look too squished together and no longer look like natural handwriting. In order to cut the wooden name out, we need all of our letters connected, and often when we do this, some of the letters are connected perfectly and there's still one or two letters that aren't connected nicely. So I'm going to show you how to fix that if you have that issue. In my case, I'm trying to connect the R to the rest of the name Rose. All you have to do is create two separate text boxes, one with the R and one with the rest of the name. And then you can bring those two boxes together, overlapping the scripts in some way until you're happy with the design. One of the things about cutting wood on the Cricut Maker is that some of the really delicate, intricate cuts are harder for it to make. The wood is thicker, it's harder to cut through, and it ends up shaving off some of the wood around the spot you're trying to cut. So one of the things I like to do is just eliminate some of those small, hard to cut places by adding a shape in place. All I do is choose a shape from the left-hand menu. In this case, I got a circle. I modified it into a bit of an oval shape by stretching it out, and then I used it to cover the little circle that was visible in the letter E that I really thought would be hard for the Cricut to cut. When you're ready, select both pieces and then hit the weld button in the bottom right-hand corner to weld the shapes together. Now you can continue following these same rules, piecing words together until they are beautifully attached and welded. Earlier I showed you how to weld shapes into your design. One other trick that can help make a smooth cut with the wood is splicing off some of the pieces in your design that don't work well and are not easy to cut. In the case of the word grandma below, I actually had some letters that when they were all welded together, some of the lines stuck up through the letter A's, and I didn't really like that. So I created a shape, modified it so it would cover the little piece of text that was sticking up, and then I selected both the shape and the word and used the slice tool in the bottom right hand corner to remove that little piece that was sticking out. As the name suggests, it will slice that little piece right out of the design. So I prepped and sized all of my names to the right size for my place settings, and then I got ready to cut everything out on my Cricut Maker, only to realize after that it wasn't going to make a nice cut. Luckily, I just decided to cut the word mom first on the third sheet to see how one would turn out, and I'll show you exactly what happened after the Cricut cut it out. You can see from the video that the Cricut is cutting this out, and if it was cutting it out of vinyl, it would do a great job and you could easily cut out this word. But because we're cutting wood, it does tend to catch sometimes, shave off extra pieces, and this design was just too thin. You can see on the edges here how thin it was in some points and that it was just breaking the name. What I learned from this and future cuts is that you need a minimum of 1/8 of an inch for the Cricut to be able to cut the wood nicely. So I went back to the drawing board and tested a few new scripts, and I found one that would work. This font is called Retro Script. It is a Cricut font, and it was still a really pretty font while having pieces that would be thick enough for the Cricut to cut it out of wood. I did the same thing to modify this font, covering up pieces that wouldn't cut well and slicing off pieces that I knew would be harder for the Cricut to cut. And then when I was done getting all of my designs ready, I had to remember to weld the words together so that they would cut properly on the Cricut. You can weld words together by selecting them and then hitting the weld button in the bottom right hand menu on your screen. When the design is ready, hit the Make It button in the top right-hand corner of your screen. When I'm getting ready to cut my design, the first thing I do is change my material size to 11 by 11, since that's the size that the basswood boards from Cricut come in. Next, I'll rearrange all of my words so that they have at least a 1/2 inch around them. With most of the designs I do, I like to make sure that the words have a little bit of extra space around them, but especially when I'm cutting wood. When you're ready, hit the Continue button and connect your Cricut Maker Machine, and then hit Browse All Materials to search for the type of wood that you're using for this project. Cricut sells both basswood and balsa wood. I would recommend the basswood for this project because it's a little bit stronger, but I have done other projects with the balsa wood and I'll link one up top here for you. These wood projects on the Cricut are really amazing, but sometimes they take a really long time to cut. Cutting out these 6 names took 14 passes with the knife blade and took probably 3 hours to cut it all out perfectly. When you're ready to cut, make sure that you've moved the white stars across the bar all the way to the right-hand side, as you can see in this video above, and make sure that you're using a strong grip mat that you've taped your piece of wood to, and that you have the Cricut knife blade in the housing to cut the wood. It's pretty amazing to watch this little machine go. I know my daughter and I would just pop back in every few minutes and see how the machine was going, and sometimes she would just stand here and stare at it cutting all the letters out. When the cutting is all done, you can carefully unload your mat and start to remove some of the names from the wood. You do want to be pretty gentle here as the wood could still crack or split easily. I recommend using some of the simple Cricut tools just to tap the wooden names out of the stencil. These guys are still fragile and can crack easily. If that happens, I recommend using a strong glue like 527. All you need is a dab on the side of the letter and it will stick really strongly. I'll link this glue in the description below. So that's it. That is how you can cut wooden names out on the Cricut Maker. I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below. And as always, hit that bell so you can be notified of more great DIY and renovation videos.